Hello everyone and welcome to the GeekWave. This is the low budget show. It's the show so low it has no budget. And happy Thanksgiving to all the Canadian listeners. This episode will come out Thanksgiving. And I'm doing this instead of spending time with my loved ones. But I spent time with them, so it's fine. We don't have a big episode this week because it is the holidays. I have been busy and I just want to get this out there. Talk about some news things. If I wait another week, they're going to be irrelevant. Which some of them already are, because I was off last week. But we got a couple pieces of news. Here's some stuff from the DC universe. A couple of informations on directors who maybe got stuff reshot from another director. And a legendary actor stepping out of his retirement. Couple of things like that. And a crossover on television, when was the last real crossover on television? When did that happen? There was one recently, wasn't there? I know Brooklyn Nine-Nine and New Girl had a crossover, but that is at least 7 years old now. So when was the last one? There's got to be one before that. We'll get to it though. But we got a few things to talk about before we get there specifically. The first thing we're going to talk about is Daniel Day-Lewis. I don't think we've talked about him on the channel yet. He is an actor. Fantastic actor, a very talented man who has stepped away from the cinema limelight for about 7 years now. Not the first time he stepped away. He's one of those guys that's always like, I'm done, I'm out of here, you're never going to hear from me again. Just let me cobble shoes or whatever he ended up doing. He did something weird after he left the spotlight. And we're glad he's gone, are we? Because you kind of went out on top. Phantom Thread is a great movie to end your career on, but he's coming back, yeah. So Daniel Day-Lewis will no longer be retiring. He's announced his acting career will start up again, and he's going to be starring in a film called Anonome, or Anemone. I think it's Anonome, and it is a movie that is going to be directed by his son, Ronan Day-Lewis. That is a very common name now. A lot of people name Ronan. I'm guessing it was of that era that people were well, that's a cool ass name. There's a couple of Ronans out there, and I'm that's a fine name. But cool, Daniel Day-Lewis will be working with his son. The duo co-wrote the script, so that's kind of cool. And there are a few details about the film, but it's an intergenerational family bond focusing on the dynamics between fathers and sons and brothers. And there's a few other actors who are attached to this project, Sean Bean being one of them, and Samantha Morton. So that's exciting. It's cool that he's going to come back for this. What if you're making a movie and you got your dad in it and it's Daniel Day-Lewis? There are worse children who could make a movie there with their dad, Which is kind of exciting that, if you had to, make a movie with, your family, you could do worse than using Daniel Day-Lewis. So that's kind of cool. I think that's really interesting that he's going to choose to come back for this. And it just shows you that maybe he's getting the itch again. But it's your son, I'd do things for my son too. Just hey, Dad, you want to be in my movie? Okay. So let's see here. Ronan Day-Lewis, 26, is a painter and filmmaker. This will be his first feature film, according to a statement from Focus Features, which is making the film with production company Plan B. Okay. Very cool. I mean, that's nepotism. It's pretty good. I like Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm sure his son's going to do fun. 26. And your dad. Okay. That's cool. I'm 26. Are you telling me I'm the same age as Ronan Day-Lewis? That's gonna just sting when this movie comes out. Very cool. It's pretty cool. I like it. It's exciting. Good for Daniel. Get back out there. Work with your son. That's pretty cool. I just thought that was interesting because he's a guy that people like, and it's been a minute since he's been in the limelight, so we had to talk about him. But I think in a more interesting news, this is kind of old hat at this point, but I do want to talk about it because I think this is a really fascinating piece of stuff that's happening for an art form. So a couple weeks ago, it was announced by James Gunn and Matt Reeves and the overall project at DC Studios that they are going to be developing a film called Dynamic Duo. Now, Dynamic Duo is going to be a story about two of the Robins, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. Now, here's what's interesting about it. I'm actually just going to read the tweet that was said by James Gunn. Over the moon excited to announce the newest DC Studios / Warner Bros. Pictures animation greenlight for theaters. Dynamic Duo, the story of Robin, or should I say Robins, as in Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. The first feature film from the visionary Swaybox, a mix of animation, puppetry, and CGI. A script from the wonderfully talented Matt Aldrich, produced with our partners at Matt Reeves' 6th in Idaho. This is something special. So, if you look up Swaybox, and you can look it up, it's all over the internet now, like their feature reels is like the stuff that they're trying to promote with their art form. It is gorgeous. It is some of the most seamless blend of puppetry and animation I have ever seen in my life. And that is such a unique feeling. It doesn't have like the stop motion feel. It is almost more seamless than that. But it's so unique in its presentation. So unique. It's got like the big kind of like animated head and movements, but it's like puppetry at the same time. There's something so unique about it. They have a couple of reels where they're showing off like what the technology can do, comparing it to like an animated scene from the Iron Giant to like a model they made in the same character, to like a short film that was produced by Swaybox. I'm impressed. I think what impresses me the most is taking that and being like, comic book. Because that is something I've been saying for so long about comic books and comic book properties, is it should feel stylized. That's why the Spider-Verse films and the Ninja Turtle film Mutant Mayhem work so well, because you're taking a specific medium and you're just stylizing it in a certain way. Having like a unique voice with like the style you're going for is so important to this. And you have two characters in Jason Todd and Dick Grayson who are from a different era. Like Dick Grayson in particular is from like the 40s. He should feel like that kind of like cartoony Pinocchio kind of like marionette feel. If we're going to do animation, at least, that's what I think. Like just go for that feel. And then you could do something very unique with that. I'm genuinely amazed by this. I think it's a really cool idea and shows you, and I don't want to talk out of turn here. Maybe I could be completely wrong. And if I am, you can all just tell me in the comments. It's a bold choice that you wouldn't see Marvel making. Marvel would be too afraid to take this chance to literally work with an independent animation studio to develop a story. They wouldn't do it. I don't think a lot of the Marvel animated stuff we've seen recently is ugly, but it is a very specific style that is almost trying to be universal. But taking your characters that are Robins and doing a puppeted animated movie with them is so specific a tone that I can't help but be amazed they're actually going to attempt that. How do you sell that to people who aren't comfortable with that? I know a lot of people, unfortunately, who don't like puppetry. And if you're telling me like you have to watch a comic book movie in that style, they're not going to like it. I know people have been saying like this is their Spider-Verse. I don't think that at all. I think Spider-Verse is its own wheelhouse in terms of animation. This is something different. This is almost like the thing James Gunn has been talking about since taking over DC Studios. It's taking this specific feeling and making it so niche and specific and vintage and classic, feeling like an old school comic book. You cannot use this medium, and I don't know what the script is going to be like, but you cannot use this medium and tell like a modern story. Like you couldn't take any MCU film or any DCEU film and tell that story perfectly in the puppet format. It wouldn't make sense. So going this route, it's very exciting. It really feels like a Henry Selick thing that could be happening, and that is going to be so cool. Very curious. I hope it is set in the past, not in the present day, set in like an ambiguous time period where maybe they're both circus performers or something. So just something to that effect. And if you wanted to, I don't think you need to. You could kind of set it up where maybe they are both Robin at the same time, and they do like a Transformers 1 thing where you see them fall down different paths where one of them's more angry, one of them's more hopeful, and it leads to them at the end of the movies becoming Nightwing and Red Hood. And you could do something like that. Playing with the Batman mythos has been fine lately. I think people are comfortable with that, especially after like Absolute Batman just dominated. So I think people will be okay with that. On that note too, let's talk about Absolute Batman for a minute, because I'm not going to be doing monthly reviews for that book. I don't think I'm going to cover the Absolute Universe. There are way more talented people that are going to cover it, and I just want to enjoy it from the sidelines. One of the things about talking about anything online is that it becomes work, and when you have something that is so invested in like changing the popular conception in 2024 for comic books, I don't want that to ruin it for me, so having to like cover it. So I just want to enjoy the Absolute Universe from afar. We'll talk about it eventually, like I do want to talk about the new Ultimate lineup at Marvel. We'll get there slowly. And that first issue was really good. I did enjoy it. It looked pretty fun. It sets up a really unique story. It wasn't like mind-boggling or like changing my conception a bit. I do like how Batman kind of became like an Arctic figure, and just is going to be disruptive, and maybe there's like more class and poise coming from interpretations of Alfred and Joker. That's kind of exciting. I'm not the biggest Joker fan, you know that, but I think it's kind of cool that that's going to be an angle they're going to play up. I really like Waylon in the book too. I think he was my favorite addition. Like, that is a great character to have in here. If you want to change the conception of a character for Batman fans, use Waylon. That's awesome. I love both of this. The Batman brand is very strong right now. Not that it's ever been weak, but I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool that that's happening. And here's something else that's happening in the upcoming season of Abbot Elementary. We are going to be seeing a crossover with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I guess makes sense. Both of these are owned by Hulu or FX or whatever. ABC, I think, is the larger conglomerate that owns them. Sure. They're both set in Philadelphia, so might as well. Two shows that are diametrically opposed to each other in the stories they are telling. I think it's fascinating that they're going to do that. If this was like early seasons of It's Always Sunny, there's no way you could do it. Like, the way those characters act and behave are not the characters you could have in an Abbott Elementary. But the way the show has kind of like progressed to be more meta and referential to like the creators and the stuff they want to talk about now, it's almost like the anti-Seinfeld, where instead of like canceling themselves and like, we don't have to do this anymore because the times are changing, they're like, we'll change with the times because we're kind of like ashamed of what we used to be. It's very interesting. So like modern Sunny does kind of fit into that aesthetic, but you have to ask yourself the question, what would any of this cast of characters be doing around a school? Unless like Frank is investing in it or something. Or maybe Charlie's a janitor there now, and Charlie teaming up with the janitor would be pretty cool. I gotta say, that'd be exciting. I'm trying to like think of like pairings. Who would Ava like work with in like that setting? I don't think it'd be D. Dennis would be the easy one, like two narcissistic people that would be broken against each other. I feel like everyone would be against D in Abbott. I don't know. Really interesting to see what could happen. It's kind of exciting. Again, like, television crossing over is pretty cool. I think that's unique and fun and deserves some good stuff happening. These are both shows that are interesting. It's Always Sunny. Are they filming the third season? Or not the third. Sorry, I'm getting ready for like the next news piece with the number 3 in it. I'm thinking the 17th season. That's the one that's coming up, right? Did they film that, or is it coming out yet? Pretty soon. I don't know. Kind of exciting. It's kind of exciting. I think so, at least. I haven't been like in love with the show in recent time, but I do. I still like it. I think it's important that it exists and is still talking about itself. So, in another piece of news that's kind of exciting, I wanted to throw this in here because it is kind of a generation, and I am kind of that generation a little bit, just vaguely of that generation. The Princess Diaries 3 is officially happening, with Anne Hathaway set to return, and we have a director attached from Adele Lim. They directed, what was that movie that came out with, was it Aquafina? No, it wasn't Aquafina. It's the road, Joyride, that movie. I think of an Asian comedian, and I honestly went to Aquafina, but Joyride. He directed Joyride. She wrote Crazy Rich Asians. Two things that are awesome. I like Joyride and I like Crazy Rich Asians, and now we're going to see Princess Diaries 3, so that's happening. Chris Pine has not been attached to return, which he should. Like, we just got pictures recently of Jamie Lee Curtis and not Britney Spears. Oh my God, I'm losing it. You can tell I'm tired. And Lindsay Lohan for Freakier Friday. That's going to make a lot more money than I think people are expecting. And if you can get Chris Pine back for this movie, that is going to fall in the same category. Because that's awesome. Man, it's kind of exciting. I don't know. I haven't seen the movies in a long time. That's in a whole other era of Anne Hathaway's career. But it is the thing that if you are desperate to have a, blockbuster work for you, that you'd come back to do when Lindsay Lohan is suddenly coming back in the popular zeitgeist. You get Jamie Lee Curtis to come back with you, and you make that. Very exciting, I guess. I am positive about it, but at the same time, I don't really think it's going to change how I feel about making a third movie in a franchise that's been dead for over a decade. It's like the Devil Wears Prada sequel they are potentially making with Meryl Streep, Emily Blunt, and Anne Hathaway. Are we back to this already? I'm kind of excited for Practical Magic 2 with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock. But there has to come a point where we just leave things behind, right? Have we already ran out of everything from the 80s? Was Beetlejuice the last one we had to do? There's nothing left from the 80s. We're going to go to the 90s and 2000s. Is that where we're at? I guess so. I also wonder if the success of Freakier Friday, if it is a hit, which I think it's going to be a hit, if that's going to lead to maybe those other types of stuff being made again. Maybe we'll see Hilary Duff lead something. That'd be cool. Hey, it is truly a shame that we're in an era where all of this is getting made, but we couldn't have that Lizzie McGuire reboot exist. I will not let that go. I'm not going to let that go. I wanted that to exist more than anything in the world. It's the only one of these I was genuinely excited for. The only one where I'm this is so what I want. Because I like Lizzie McGuire more than I like Freaky Friday or The Princess Diaries or Devil Wears Prada. I love all that more. I love everything about Lizzie McGuire more than those. But no, it's fine. I guess we can't have nice things on Disney Plus. Just shit. Speaking of Disney Plus, I'll throw this in the news segment. Why not? I'm not watching Agatha all along. But they just revealed who Joe Locke is playing, and I'm going to spoil it. So if you are not caught up on Agatha All Along, here's the spoilers for the latest episode before the remaining ones come out. He's playing Wiccan, yeah, and they call him Billy Maximoff in the official promo. So, yeah, we're not going to do the Billy Kaplan stuff? I mean, how do you explain that to regular people who don't read comic books? I get it. I do understand it. But at the same time, you should have just called him Billy Kaplan and we don't have to worry about it. Are we going to call Tommy Maximoff? Is that what we're going to do if he shows up in this show or not? Whatever. We all knew it from the beginning. It's so painfully obvious it was him. You don't cast an iconic gay teen of this era unless they're playing an iconic gay teen in a comic book. So, that show seems very hit or miss. I love the energy that it's exuding. I just can't with Marvel TV. It's just too boring. None of it excites me. None of it is interesting to me, not even Daredevil. I can't get like on board. I think it's going to be the most beautiful, like well crafted, but I just can't pretend I'm excited about it because I'm not. I'm just not. It's not that interesting to me. But whatever. Moving on to more television that involves comic book properties. We have official casting for Jon Stewart in Lanterns. Now, we talked a couple weeks ago about Kyle Chandler. He was cast loosely as Hal Jordan. I think it's a really interesting choice. I think he's a little old, but we're clearly going to push Jon Stewart as the character, which is fine by me. If Hal dies in this at this early on, I can live with it. I'll move on from it. I think the reason it's going to be like this is because Warner Brothers at large is scared of pushing Hal Jordan in film because of what happened with that stupid Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds. So I think that's why this is the case that's going on here. But we have casting for Jon Stewart. It is Aaron Piere. And Aaron Piere, of course, just starred in Rebel Ridge, an incredibly good movie that looked awesome, had so much going for it, and Aaron Piere is definitely the highlight of that. He was fantastic, phenomenal, did something incredible in that show. I really enjoy what he was doing there. And you watch it and you're like, yeah, this is just clearly like a Jon Stewart energy. And then you cast him as Jon Stewart and you're like, yeah, that's perfect. It does kind of get caught up in the we're just casting fan casts from the internet stuff because that's what Corn Sweat was. I literally did a fan cast of Millie Alcock as Supergirl like years ago before they cast her. And now Aaron Piere. It's just happening a lot more frequently, and that is just a little obvious, but I'm not against it. It's kind of exciting. He's good. He's a good choice, and Kyle Chandler is also a good choice. And like we have Nathan Fillion playing Guy, so you covered the three Lanterns already. Like we're gonna get Jessica and Simon and Kyle, and yeah, Joe. We'll probably get all of them within 10 years. I would say that. I think this is going to silently do numbers, this Lanterns thing. I think it's going to be something people are very excited for. I think a lot of that's going to be for Aaron Piere because he's a really cool talent right now that people are interested in. We all love Midsize Sedan. We all love him. It's a pretty cool guy, that Midsize Sedan. What a great rapper name, by the way. That's awesome. Now here's something else I find very interesting. This is kind of talking about like the current state of animation in terms of like big budgeted films that go out there. Transformers 1 isn't doing like really well, but what is doing well is The Wild Robot, which is not like an original concept. It is based on like a very successful book, but it is an unestablished project in animation or in film. And that is probably going to be the movie that gets the sequel that people are going to see. In fact, it is. We're getting a sequel to The Wild Robot before we are getting a sequel to Transformers 1, which is really exciting. I think like the easy bet, if you were to look at it like the beginning of the year, would have been to pick Transformers 1 as the animated project that's going to get the sequel, but it's going to be The Wild Robot. Like, the film is doing pretty good. I mean, I'll have to check. Maybe I'll look it up right now. Let's see if we can look it up. Box Office Mojo. We'll go to The Wild Robot. It is looking like it's done 83 domestic, 148 worldwide. That's pretty good. Like, for counter programming for kids in Halloween era, like, you could probably do worse. It's getting really good reviews. And it's from a really good animation director. Chris Sanders is a talented director. Lilo and Stitch is a good movie. And he's doing this movie now, and he's going to be directing the sequel. He's going to be working on the sequel to The Wild Robot, which I think is really cool. Like, is he working on like the live action Lilo and Stitch movie? Was that him? I know he's not directing it. It's like that other guy like that did Marcel the Shell. But it's cool. It is cool. I'm glad it's happening. I have yet to see The Wild Robot. I have just been too busy, and with like everything else coming out in this era, I am trying to like cover the Oscar picks. I guess you could say The Wild Robot is the front runner for like best animated feature of the year. I did see Flow. Like, there was a film festival in my city. I went to see Flow, which is like the new animated film about like a cat that's on like a boat and like the water is rising. It's awesome and it's good. I should have went to The Wild Robot. I know it's still playing around me. If I have time on some like easy day, maybe I'll check it out. But I'm really glad it's getting a sequel. It's so cool to think that. I just didn't know how this one would go. I think a lot of us are being like, well, it's going to come out in a busy September and it's going to get buried. And it actually ended up doing really good. Like, it was very successful and people very much liked it. And that's kind of like all you can hope for, is something like this working and becoming interesting for people. Like, that's awesome. You wouldn't really expect that to happen. It's been out for 3 weeks. It was the first film at the box office, the number one film at the box office, I guess is what you'd say, the week it came out. Then it fell to number 2 in the following week, and then it's number 2 this week, behind Terrifier 3, which we could also put in our notes too. Terrifier 3 outgrossed The Joker this weekend. Terrifier 3, which came out this weekend, grossed 18 million worldwide. It is the highest grossing film in the Terrifier franchise, and I think shows you can never predict what people are going to want to see. You can never predict it. They're going to want to see multitudes of insane stuff. That is awesome. This is a franchise that's been marketed so perfectly, and when you have a movie like Joker that's bombing, people want to see Terrifier take that place. It is awesome. It is really awesome that it's that high up on the list. I really do like that so much. Very exciting. And we have one more piece of news to talk about, which is something that came out, I think it came out today or like the other day. There was a trailer for Ballerina that came out. I never watched it. I'd have no interest in like the John Wick franchise. It has never been for me. But people like them, I guess, and that's kind of all you can hope for. So I didn't watch the trailer. I'll watch the movie when it comes out. But it was announced recently that Ballerina was in major trouble before John Wick director did extensive reshoots. So this is a spin-off starring Ana de Armas, and it's been delayed until next year, which we already knew about that. Well, this is from an article by The Wrap, and I'm going to go to The Wrap to talk about it. Studio slump. Lionsgate's last 6 films have been box office busts. So they had films like Borderlands and The Crow and Megalopolis, and then Whitebird came out as well, and they're all doing pretty bad. But according to like a similar article, they could be looking like a major loss from Ballerina because the director Len Wiseman, who we all know, not a good director, has made some really ugly movies. A lot of like those cheap looking, like, I think they're the Resident Evils. No, they're the Underworld, right? The other guy makes the Resident Evil movies. He makes the Underworld films. He did that Total Recall reboot or whatever. He was attached to Ballerina, and I guess it's like ugly and shitty, and nobody liked what he was doing. So Chad Stahelski, the co-creator of the John Wick franchise, because David Leitch goes on to do other stuff, he stepped in to do extensive reshoots according to this article and essentially saved the project. But it was a lot of money. The Ballerina reshoots took 2 to 3 months overseas, according to the First Insider, and further delayed development on Stahelski's revival of Highlander. Shut up. Who cares about Highlander? They're not making Highlander. Just shut up about it. So, what did we learn today? That Len Wiseman sucks, and he's not a good director, and has made some ugly movies, and that Chad Stahelski makes good-looking movies and is going to save your franchise. Chad Stahelski, of a lot of the people attached to John Wick, is the most talented director of the bunch. I will say that. He has a great style and knows what he's doing. But according to three insiders of knowledge to the project, the reality was that Stahelski actually had to reshoot most of the film due to Wiseman's cut not passing muster. According to one insider, a significant portion of Ballerina was reshot in Budapest with Wiseman not present on set. So whose name is going to be on the final product? I'm guessing it's going to be Weissman, but we'll see. Congrats to Lionsgate for being one of the few studios that's not having a streaming service for themselves and not annoying, but they're kind of falling apart. Clearly, making a Borderlands movie, Megalopolis, and The Crow were not the way to go. Also, I guess we could throw this into the news too. I completely forgot about it. Christopher Nolan's got a new movie coming out in 2026, and he's like, Warner Brothers, you do not get to see this. This is only for Universal. Thumbs up to that energy. We should have more of that energy. That's the stuff I like to hear. That's the stuff that makes me happy. I enjoy that and that energy a lot. Good for you, man. Tell it like it is. Just shut up about all this other stuff. I dig it. I dig it. And that's it for this week. It's just a big old news dump. Just get through it. I am super sleep deprived right now, but we managed to get through this, and we'll be back next week with some more normal episodes. I think it's going to be about DC Comics, something related to DC. I'm just in that mood right now. But until then, thank you all for watching this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.